broadcast.
All right.
Perfect.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Voice of Electronic Music, number 33, with Sean Raya. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me out here.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. You were recommended by my good friend Ryan, and it sounds like you've got a lot of experience in the scene, so it'll be fun to kind of pick your brain a little bit and see what you've been up to.
Oh, definitely, man, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess let's get started with just like a general intro. How'd you get started in the scene? I mean, because you're on Reload Records.
Yeah.
Funkin' Deep Records / Funkin' Deep Black.
Yep.
I'd like to get into the difference between that at some point. And then a former content manager at Satellite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it all started out. I'll start, I guess, like from the beginning with like music, and like how I got into music was when I was younger. I was really into like guitar music and like rock, and then punk, and then just really like anti-establishment, like against the man
System
type
of
of
the
music.
Down,
Yeah, System
like,
of the
yeah,
Down.
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, like that stuff, and then like the more like anti-establishment punk, like Anti-Flag or The Explosion, and just or like I grew up in the Northeast, so like Leftover Crack and Crack Fest out there, just all that. That was my jam.
Sick.
And then I moved to upstate New York in about 2005. And my good friend to this day, Shannon Hunt, he came over one day. He was a boyfriend with one of my good friends. Came over and just popped on some Infected Mushroom, and then this Bad Boy Bill banging the box of CDs. And I was like, yo, what is this stuff? he's like, yeah, this is it, man. This is my jam.
Right.
He's like, you want to come to a rave with me? And I was like, yeah, why not? Sure, this is dope. And I went to my first rave and it was game over after that. Yeah.
Wow, it's incredible. What was the first rave? Do you remember?
I was Quick Fix 6, I think, or 7 in upstate New York. It was like a drum and bass DJ named John B. And then it was the House Moguls from Chicago. And then they had karaoke, like Party Monster karaoke, all that. So it was for me just a totally like surreal, just vibe, completely different from like this hardcore punk scene that I was involved with. And from that day forward, I just switched gears completely. I was like, this is what I love. This is what I'm into. Yeah. So then I just went down that road, and here we are now. Almost 15 years later now, 14 years later, and still kicking it.
Still going,
yeah.
So was it difficult at all for you to make that transition? Because I know some people mentally, they're like, especially if you go for something kind of like hard, like rock, you know what I mean? And then you make the switch to something that's a little bit more like free flowing and like lovey, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people like mentally kind of struggle with that a little bit.
Oh yeah. When I was younger, I remember I would be like jamming out like the electronic music I just discovered, and then as soon as I got to a place, like all like my hardcore friends and punk friends, but I like turn it down. They want to hear it. Yeah, I definitely went through all that. Yeah. But then eventually it was just like, nah, dude, I can't hide this. This is what I love.
Yeah.
And then to go on to that, like how I got into DJing is my same friend Shannon. He had these pair of horrible, just crappy like Newmark belt-driven turntables and this like Stanton mixer, or I forget what mixer it was, like maybe a Newmark mixer, where it's like you had a high and a low EQ, but if you cut out the low, you basically cut out everything like below like 3 kilohertz. So it's just like, ow. It's like, so there's no point in even using these EQs. Right. And then faders are just horrible, but like I just loved it. We had just had like this most random assortment of vinyl. We had like Kellos, My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard acapella, but then with like BT, Love, 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 and then Chemical Brothers Star Guitar, which was, by the way, the first vinyl I ever got. And they were just out here 2 months ago, and I got to see them for the first time, and they played it, and that was like a full circle moment right there for me.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, that's like how I really started getting into it, and then he had him, and I was gonna move from upstate New York to Arizona, where I really developed myself as a DJ. Yeah. But when I moved to Arizona, I had this old beat up like 1989 Volvo box, like metal, like one of those old Volvos where if you hit that Volvo, the Volvo is going to be fine. Whatever car hits into it, it's going to be smashed to smithereens.
It's a German tank.
Yeah, German tank. Yeah. And I traded that old beat up car for his crappy belt-driven turntables.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I just traded them straight up. I was like, I want these. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I just want to do that. And then that was my first pair of belt. Yeah. That's
incredible. Well, I always said it. I mean, if you can learn on belt-driven turntables, or if you can play on them at all, I mean, you're setting yourself up for success.
Oh,
because
yeah.
everything after that is going to be, incredibly easy.
A walk in the
A
park.
walk in the park.
You
yeah.
could like blow on it and be like,
Right,
the
yeah.
belt would fall off, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh my god, are you kidding me? But I just loved it, man. I would just
Yeah.
sit in my room for hours. Just, like,
Yeah.
it's the same 5 vinyl, but just
Yeah.
like going to town just because it was so much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It was the best. I mean, yeah, especially like kind of your first dive into that sort of thing, whether it's like your first rave or your first, mixing experience, like blending two records together. It's magic. Like, I really didn't even start DJing. I've been producing music for, probably 18 years now, and like that was always my thing. And I had this. I probably told this story on the podcast before, but I had this roommate in college that would just get really high, and he would just scratch all night. And we had like a sound system in our living room, 'cause we were like a party house in college, and he would just scratch, and it was the same like fresh, and it would be like till 5 a.m, and I'm trying to sleep before I go to work, and I just wanted to pull my ears out, and I'm like, why would anybody want to be a DJ? Because that was like my only experience as to what a DJ was, and then of course I finished college and came back down here, and then I started going out in the city and around Oakland, and that's really when kind of I was like, oh, okay, so this is what a DJ is. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah, a little more finesse.
Yeah, I had that same type of thing because like before, when I knew like electronic music, I just thought it was like really cheesy stuff that I like heard on the radio, just like really like off the wall stuff that like my friend downloaded like back in the day on like Kazaa or Napster or something like that. And it was like a Eurodance song, but at the time it was like techno is what they called everything. So I like listen to that and be like, nah, this isn't for me, man.
Right, yeah.
But then I delve into the world and realize how vast and how big it really was. And then that's when like the rabbit hole just opened up, and I just fell on in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know that song, they used to play it on like 94.9 all the time, and it still gets played out. It's just like, wow, don't panic. Don't panic. Like that's like my first, because they used to play that on 94.9 at like lunchtime, and that's when I would listen to that's when I first got kind of like the Latin house.
Yeah.
I was in like 5th grade or something, and that's kind of what turned me on to it. And this was like even before kind of, trance and like, castles in the sky and all that shit, And that later, like 17 years old, that's when I kind of got into that stuff, and like setting up raves in our parents' houses while they were gone and stuff,
dim the lights, get the glow sticks,
black lights,
Oh yeah. No, it's funny you mentioned that. I was like, I should have known I was going to be really big into dance music. So I was like 6 or 7. It was like CC in the Music Factory, like Turn the Beat Around. Like it used to be like my favorite song when I was a kid. Every single song that come on, I'd just start boogieing.
Right.
So I always knew it was inside of me. It just took me a little while to discover it when I got older.
Right. So how did you get hooked up with Reload Records, and what was that? What's the process like for getting onto a record label? Because not everybody that is listening knows how to necessarily get onto a record label. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's good advice.
Definitely. Well, good advice is to put yourself out there into the scene. So like how that all came to be is through the years of just putting myself out there, going out there for the love of it, and just DJing, and then just writing music on my own, and then just showing it to friends. One of these friends that I got really close with just when I lived in Arizona in the DJ scene, he moved out to LA and started this label called Funk and Deep, which came to really now be a lot more relevant in that type of techno world. And through him, I met some of these other people that he was working with, and then they were just like, hey, we're looking at this, we're looking to discover new artists right now. You got anything to send over to me? And this is like after I've already, like, don't get me wrong, I sent like music to like labels and upon labels, never heard anything back. It's just like, it was getting like disheartening, because it gets disheartening when like you put yourself out there and you get like at least not even like a no. You get nothing at all. So you're like,
it's like online dating. You send all these messages and you're like, really? No responses? Oh, it's like chopped liver. Like,
at least I couldn't see if they read it or not. I would have been like, oh.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so they listened to it and they're like, they like the one song. They're like, oh, we like this one song. You got 2 more? And I was like, I had like 2 other songs I was like pretty happy with. So I sent those over and they're like, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And I was like, cool. So it comes down to like being out there and like being active in the scene and like just be a good person. Like every single person that you ever meet in this industry, you'll be so surprised like 5-10 years down the road what that person is doing, and like if you had a genuine connection with that person, that will just pay off dividends in the future, because just being good will. I feel like that's been my whole life. Just like do good unto others as you want done unto you, and then like everything will kind of come together.
Absolutely. I mean, that I've lived by that, because you don't know what that person's going to be doing in 5-10 years. And they could turn around and help you in some fashion. And just kind of like helping people, right? Like that's kind of always been my thing. It's just like helping people wherever you can. You know what I mean? Maybe sometimes you have to charge money. Maybe sometimes you just do it for free or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
pay your dues.
Pay your dues, right? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you're making music, there's this whole thing that I always have kind of tossed back and forth, the whole like you make a bunch of music and then like do you hold on to it and save it, in like a nest egg, and then you give that to labels or you can send it out to labels, and when they do say, hey, do you have more, then you can be like, yeah, I do actually, and it's all unreleased. Or do you like constantly upload stuff to kind of get people like buzzing a little bit, because it's they're very different worlds, approaches.
I mean, I guess it's hard to really just pinpoint what is the one correct thing to do, because like there's so many different scenarios that can happen, which is what makes everyone's story just completely different. Like what I've been doing lately is I actually haven't released like an EP like out, just a salt EP under my name, or it's not like a compilation or anything, in over a year and a half now, because I've just been in the studio like really trying to focus on my like sound and like what I want for me to do moving forward, and what I want to represent, and like what is true to me. And sometimes going through that soul searching process is not going to just happen.
Right.
And like you're going to have your ups and downs with it. You're going to have your moments of self-doubt, but then you're going to have those revelations that happen if you just stick to it, and it'll just come back through. So I can't really say what's better is like building up a bunch of tracks and just having them on there, or just trying to just turn them out as they ask for them. Depends on your situation. If you got a good relationship with a label and you've already done like, gave them like a first release and they just want more, cool, just keep pumping them out, keep it going, keep that train going. Like whatever avenue you have going, run on it. Like don't ever block off an avenue because it's not there. But if there's a time like what I'm going through right now, where I'm just feeling like my sound and everything that I want to develop into now needs to really resonate with me personally. It's a little bit more of a selfish thing of like, this is what I want to say as a message. So I'm taking a little bit more time now to like really develop that internally, and then do the whole like, here's my past 2 years of my life, 3 years of my life.
Right.
So, now take it as you will.
Yeah. Because you see, like it's like someone like Skrillex was just putting his stuff up there, back in the MySpace days, and then it got seen, and then but yeah, I think you're right. Like kind of, it's a little, it's subjective to your own position, wherever you're at in your journey, I suppose, your musical journey.
I guess one word of advice I could just say to anyone just like starting out on it all is just keep doing it. Just keep pushing through no matter what. Like try different things. If they're not working, just keep going and just
put an insane amount of hours in your DAW and
so many hours.
So many hours. Like, make your roommates wondering if you're doing all right.
Like I've heard the same kick drum for like 8 hours.
I don't know, man. I think he's lost it. No. I'm just making techno.
It's exactly.
So, what would you say your sound is, or what is it now? Because I mean, it's always evolving. But where are you at right now?
Definitely. Well, like what my sound's going now is I'm definitely feeling a lot more of like the like trippier, darker side of techno. Where before a lot of my stuff, I really liked that polished sound before, something that really like hit hard and had a big like blockbuster moments in your music. But right now, what I'm really finding that I like is like a lot more of that like European type of vibe, where like you got these people like Oscar Malero who like changed my life, and this all really shifted fairly recently for me when I really went to Detroit for my first time and got to experience this whole other realm of techno that I had known about before, but never really fully engulfed myself into that world. And when I went in there, I was like, this is it. This is what I want. This is the future right here for me. Like this is what I'm going to dedicate my time into. So
absolutely.
So but that's like my style now is like what I'm trying to figure out. Like like still just like big banging songs, and I still like that, but I love the intricacies and the sound design of something that's a little bit not as structured, where I don't know exactly, like it's not going to be like a here's your 32 bars and you have your break and then you have like your build up like that. It's more like experimental with it, and like when you find the track that gets rid of the formula but still works so amazingly well, that just gives me so much inspiration and makes me so curious that like I just have to like dive in deeper on that.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel that I'm kind of. I think I'm going to start exploring that a little bit too, because it's a good way to stay out of Loopville. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was reading the most recent Tycho AMA, and he was saying that he kind of does the same thing. Like a lot of his tracks like don't really follow any sort of typical 16, 32, whatever. They're very just kind of like, it's time for this thing to happen.
Yeah.
And then it does happen. You know what I mean? And you listen to his stuff, and it's just like, oh, like, has arrangement ever mattered? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's so fucking good,
Yeah. Well, arrangement is like always for me like been like one of like the most difficult parts too, because I think when I try to put myself in like a box, I try to get too formulaic with things. When I get too formulaic with things, I then become my biggest self-doubter, because this is actually meeting the formula that is supposed to quote unquote work. And when I feel like I get rid of that type of limitation on myself, it frees me actually to just like do what feels right. And like that's when I started DJing. Like I didn't have YouTube, I didn't have any formula or anything like that to try to figure out how to do it. I just sat there with these random ass records and just threw them together, and whenever something gave me that emotional response of that was it, I just knew that that's what I like. And luckily it's resonated with people as well. What I like is what other people resonate with too. So energy just doesn't lie.
No. Yeah, I think falling back on the emotional response is kind of the most important thing, right? Like, because there could be, I mean, I have songs that are so abstract that they just don't make any sense, but like they still pull something from me. You know what I mean? It's still so like a lot of like Actress. Are you familiar with Actress? Yeah. A lot of Actress stuff is so fucking experimental and just like off the wall, but it like it's still you can't, it pulls you in. You know what I mean? And I love that.
Yep, I agree, man. I agree.
So yeah, I kind of got turned out a little bit by Burning Man.
Yeah.
The overall sound, like the vibe there, like the musical tonality. There's just whatever it is, whether it's like house or like techno, it's kind of a little bit more minimal. Like I'm kind of just speaking broadly as to what I heard. Of course, you can find anything there, but something about that I think is gonna kind of change my sound a little bit. You know what I mean? And of course, I did like a million Shazams while I was there, and just, you know what I mean? And so now I'm like going through the backlog, like studying this stuff, and being like, oh shit, and which is good, because I kind of have like another alias that I've been tossing around in my head, and part of me is like, well, maybe I have too many aliases, but it's like no, I need to compartmentalize things, like, because I'm not going to give any one of them up. I'm well aware that I'm dividing my time now, but I would much rather divide my time than just like give something up and be like, oh, I'm on to this next thing. You know? Because at some, like, I know I'm gonna want to come back to this other sound at some point and that sort of thing. And I feel like it's a good way of kind of organizing things.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, it was funny. Like I went through this phase where I had a had a few different monikers when I was in like Arizona, and then when actually I moved out to San Francisco, I was like, I just want to drop all these monikers. I'm just gonna be Sean Raya, and whatever Sean Raya is to me is like what's gonna come out. But then I mean, like, there's this whole other like balance of it. It's like now Sean Raya to me is like my techno side, but there's like a side of me that I don't get to express that like loves like Romanian minimal or like just like a groove like stuff like that. And, like I feel like if you did like a Romanian minimal with your, I don't know, I guess there's like people like Marcus Suckett who do exactly that, a minimal style, and then they also do that techno. I guess it's just like if you find your sound, you can make your sound into anything you want, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I've had that thought in my head too now, being like, do I start a new moniker for the more like minimal type of stuff that I really resonate with too? But yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like I at one point was just like, I'm just gonna make music under Scott Brio, and that's it, And then as time goes on, you like, for me it's more of like I started at some point to get frustrated with what I was making, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna try something completely wild, and did that, and I loved it, and it was completely off the beaten path, and that became kind of my weird esoteric future bassy stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can't even really call it future bass because it's a little bit. It's a little bit trappy, a little bit future bassy, a little bit like shoegazy. But I was like, I don't want to give that up.
Yeah,
But it doesn't fit under Scott Brio. So like, what am I gonna do now? So I came up with another alias, which is Friends with Benefits.
yeah.
And then my next one I'll keep, I guess, a secret. I can tell you afterwards. But
Alright.
that's gonna be a little
I'll
bit
get
more.
the little lowdown on
Yeah,
this one.
yeah. That'll be my more like my Scott Brio is like my house music, kind of my fun, upbeat house music, trippy, whatever. But then this new thing is gonna be kind of more techno, more minimal, just kind of a little bit darker.
Cool. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Because we all have those little parts of our lives too,
Yeah,
right? Where like you
right.
have your little darker parts of you, then you have your other parts of that, and I feel like if you have those different outlets to do that with, I think that might actually be a healthy thing.
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right, yeah. So when you're making music for these two record labels, what how do you compartmentalize that, and do you mentally make a shift when you're making one for one, or do you just make your music and then you kind of shoot them out to the various avenues on the back end?
Well, that's kind of what I've been taking this break for, to discover myself now, is because before I used to just be like very like targeted and like kind of not like narrow sighted, but like, okay, I'm gonna write for this label, it has to be like this, and this in order to fit their sound, or like for this label it has to be kind of like this, and this, and I would sit down and write a song, and like I'd get this inspiration going, but then like I would stop my inspiration and be like, well, that doesn't really fit like what I was trying to go for, and then that's just the death of creativity.
Yeah, right.
Like you cannot be in that mindset at all, or else you're
do
gonna
that.
be stuck running in the same spot forever.
Right.
So like over the past like year and a half, I was just like, all right, Sean, you're losing like sight. You need to really sit here and find you and your voice again, and then that will pay itself off in dividends in the future. So that's what I've been doing now. So I used to sit there and be like, okay, I have to write for this label and do it like this, but I took the time off. I was able to, and I'd be like, no, I need to just focus on me.
Yeah.
And whatever me is, then I'll see who wants to take that sound of me and put it out there.
Right, because ultimately that's their choice anyway. I mean, you could make something for this thing, and they can be like, "Oh, it doesn't really fit," So it's almost, I think, just in your best interest to just be creative, hyper creativity, hyper productive, cranking them out, and then they'll be like, "We want this one and that one," because they're gonna do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So what's the difference between the Funkin' Deep records and Funkin' Deep Black?
So Funkin' Deep Records and Funkin' Deep Black are under the same house. I would say the Black is a little bit more their like heavier style of their releases, and then the Funkin' Deep is a little bit lighter, or it's now turning into a spot where people that have great music coming out, but their name might not have exactly blown up to that level yet. That Funkin' Deep can be like a springboard for them to help them out, getting them to that next level, because it's on a reputable label where they have quality music. But like it comes down to sales, right? And if you're a name, and I remember artist Koyu once had a great post online about like with Sawara, how like whenever he releases an unreleased, unknown name, even if the track is absolutely phenomenal, the sales just aren't there. But if it's a big name, it's like almost like a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is still music business. So when like if numbers aren't meeting for that, it sucks that kind of happens to some unknown artists where they get the chance, and you just have to keep chugging and chugging and chugging. That's another thing I say too, is like if you get a release on the big label, that's just the beginning. That is the first step in a long, long road. Like I remember when I first got the first contract and I signed in, I was like, oh yeah, this is it.
I made it. Yeah.
And no, it doesn't
Going
work.
to the Bentley dealership.
Going to the Bentley dealership. Yeah. No, man, that's just the first foot in the long hallway to hard work.
Yeah.
It's you gotta really want it. If you really want it, you can make it happen. But you gotta want it.
That's grind time.
Yeah, it's grind time.
Like as if it wasn't before. That's grind time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's amazing. So can you tell me about like being the content manager for a label?
Yeah. So with Satellite Records in New York, they were actually one of the biggest like record distributors in the upstate or into the New England and New York area in like 90s, and they have a big history with a bunch of parties they used to throw back in the day. And when I was in Arizona, this all goes back to just people that you know. This guy named Bill Kramer, he was a big part of Satellite Records back in the 90s, and they were relaunching their online store, which is would be like a competitor to Beatport. And basically my job as a content manager on there was to just cycle through a bunch of releases that would come in, because their whole philosophy was we still want to have that personal touch of we have people putting out these digital releases in like a well curated format so people can find them easily.
Right.
So they hired on people like me and a few others to just sit there and cycle through all these songs and then just categorize them and just categorize the songs. So yeah, I did that for about 2 years, and it was awesome. I got to discover a lot of new music that way, like a lot of new like labels that are still like some like gems that like I know no one else has, but it's there ready to go. And yeah, that was a great experience. That gave me a good sight into the business side of like record labels and like record stores and like what all goes into it and like really what the like ROI is and like what really these people are not doing this to try to make money, man. This is for straight love. Like you gotta want to love this, man, because it's like any other motive, you're gonna burn out quick and you're just not gonna be here for the right reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with most things in majority of the music industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of this like cream that rises to the top.
Yep.
And it's like those are the people that it's unfortunate, but it's like there's like a 1% of music. You know what I mean? And those are the people making like crazy amounts of money. You know?
Yeah.
And I guess that there is money to be made like lower down. I've talked to people that have record labels that are like smaller, kind of mid-level, and you can definitely make money and kind of live on it. But again, even that is like I feel like that's like the 3 and 4 or 5%, like it's such a vast ocean of people making music, especially with like how easy it is to have a computer and a DAW and all that.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just like because you like don't get me wrong, like there's like this barrier where like you can make like nowadays with our like the new way of life with like the gig economy and like the way that you have a more of a middle class musician style, like you can make a comfortable living doing music, but like you're like don't expect like any like glitz and glamour out of like some of these people expect, and you're just like no, it's just you gotta like at the end of the day like wake up in the morning and know that like my bills are paid because of what I love to do. That has to be the most gratifying thing and the feeling that you have to be chasing for, and that's the end game. Just like that is it.
You've kind of made it at that point, and anything past that, like if you're paying the bills, like
if you're paying the bills, like life is good.
Right,
life is good. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what's the like in 2019? What's the best way to get your music out there? Is it sending it to blogs? Is it sending it to record labels? Is it? I don't think it's posting it on your Facebook anymore because that's long been dead.
It's taking every single avenue you can and putting it out there on that avenue. It's like if you want to do self-release and doing like Bandcamp or something like that as well, like put it out there. But no, like you have to like. You can't be shy about letting people know that stuff is out there. They have to know where to go to find it. They have to like listen to it. And you like if it's someone where you're like unknown, you have to convince people to take the time to do that because that's an investment in that person's day for them to take time to listen to you. And like whenever someone does that, you have to be so appreciative of that because that means so much. To like it's literally taking time out of their day to listen to you and what you produce, and like be so grateful for that, and like create an atmosphere where like people understand that like you appreciate them being there just to support you on your journey through this crazy world of music that we all love so much. And yeah, it's like you can do that. You can try hunting for a label, but the one thing I'll say is like if you do get that opportunity and you get in like a big label, don't like just give up on everything else and just keep that on that one label. Just keep these other avenues going because like 2 years later, 3 years later, you don't know what happens. You always want to have multiple different streams to just keep yourself going at all times. Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. I was releasing on a label for kind of my more my friends' benefit stuff, and label kind of fell apart a little bit, and so now I'm like kind of not sure what happens there. Like, I mean, it's still online. What do I do? Who's the owner? I suppose at this point I could. It's still online. That's really all I care about. You know what I mean? I could always just ask, I guess. But I guess it's online, so I'm not too worried about it. But it's a weird kind of gray area. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So as far as making your music, what are you using? Are you using hardware? Are you using all software these days?
I'm doing like a hybrid setup. I've actually over the past like 6 months or so really starting to fall down the hardware hole a lot more than I used to. Like I used to have like my like mode, like one like mode synth and then like one other synth here, and then just like combine that with like my hybrid like software, because I grew up on software in the studio. I wasn't in the box first. I started this in like 2008. I guess you could count like a little further back with like Fruity Loops back in the day, and then like Reason and stuff. But like I really got serious with it when I got like Ableton in '08, to really like sit down and start focusing on writing music. And back then, like it was just had my sample pack and then just everything in the box. But what I'm really finding with hardware now is like just jamming and just like not even caring what you're writing about, but just having it all going together. It's all synced through like MIDI clock, something you just jam.
Right.
And like you can find some amazing things that you never would have thought of before that way. And so I'm not nearly as good as my hardware jamming as I can just sitting in front of a DAW, just tweaking for hours and get something I like. But just the pure enjoyment that I get out of doing that's my end game now, is like focusing on going live, like even for like live performance.
For sure, yeah. That's kind of my thing. Is I prefer. I mean, hardware's expensive, so it's a long process, and I really have like maybe, I got maybe 4 or 5 pieces of hardware.
Yeah.
I got like a hardware sampler. I've got a Dave Smith Poly Evolver. I've got a Moog Slim Fatty.
So I got some
Korg.
Fatty too.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I got the Korg, the Micro Korg.
Nice.
So that's a good one. But I really, after all the time like fiddling in the there was a time where I started with hardware. I started with an ASR 10, which is just like with a keyboard version of a MPC essentially.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of I had tried to fiddle with the computer softwares and stuff early days of Fruity Loops or whatever.
Yep.
And it was too much. It was too much to do the computer and the DAW and the like it wasn't like audio interfaces were super easy to hook up back then, nor MIDI, So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna get this keyboard sampler, and that was kind of like what like launched me into like understanding like, oh, we've got sequences and we've got layers and kind of instruments and all that stuff. And then at one point I sold it because things had gotten easier. Yeah. And I was like, now I need to dive into software, which I did, and I don't really regret it. I kind of wish I still had the keyboard, but I could always buy another one,
Yeah, right.
But now I'm hitting this point where I love Ableton. I love it to shit. I can do anything in Ableton. I do all my mixing, my mastering and that. But I tend to like, there's times where there's times where I can kill it and I can get really creative, but I find that when I can lean back on a piece of hardware and just fiddle, like you were saying, kind of like jam out, like load it full of some sounds, or make a new a new preset or something on my synth, and then just fiddle around with the keys, and something about it being so immediate, even though I have a push too, which is very immediate, but something about the sounds are in it already, and it's like you can kind of create this thing, and then you dump that into Ableton, and then it's like you're already 10 steps ahead.
Yep.
And then you can go take that from wherever, you can chop it up, and it's just audio, right?
Yeah.
So you've like wiped the slate clean. You're like, boom, now I got just audio. Now what?
Yeah.
Because now you have to do something with it. You know what I mean?
It commits
like,
you to it. That's another thing too with hardware with me is I used to be a tweaker back in the day with with just the software instruments, man. Like I was like be like a tweakathon, just like I have to tweak this one more param and I do this when I have audio. It's there.
Yeah. Just
mix it and just chop it up, edit it, and then you got something there. But what I will say, like I'll preface this with like, don't anyone think that like you have to just get hardware, because like I did software for the longest time. It's just whatever your workflow works for you at the time.
Sure.
And I'm just finding like right now, like I've been doing software for so long, I needed kind of that little bit of like that new thing, a little spark for me again to like really like inspire me. And like right now I just found that that's what inspired me. If you have like some like software instrument that's like right now being like, this is blowing my mind, run with that. And like just instead of just like trying to just like write a song every single time, just sit down and hit record and just start tweaking around with knobs, and then just get yourself like a 15-minute recording and then just chop it up and then just have a bunch of cool little sounds and start building your own sample pack.
Yeah, you could do the same thing. Literally. There's all these Groovebox VSTs. Like there's, I think Fruity Loops makes one that you can port it over to whatever you want. I know Xfer makes one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean you can load those with sounds, treat them just like hardware, and then print it to audio. It's almost a little bit weirder to wrap your head around, because you kind of initially just want to keep it as like MIDI or
Yeah,
whatever.
Because then you can keep on
You can
messing
keep
around.
tweaking.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can tweak. No,
yeah, yeah.
but that's what you don't want.
Yeah,
That's what you don't want.
Exactly.
You know? It's a very strange thing, and don't just freeze it either.
Yeah,
Don't just
commitment's
freeze
scary,
it.
people.
Commit it. Yeah, commit it. Right. Yeah. Well, there's always the save as. Right.
Yeah.
The save as was my saving grace.
Yep.
Was because there's unlimited save ases. They don't really take up any more space, I don't think. I mean, maybe technically, but you know, a tiny bit. But the ability to just save it as kind of mentally compartmentalizes it, and you're like, okay, well now I can always go back to it. So now I can just fucking tweak it wildly and do whatever, and there's no messing up, you know.
Yep.
And also too, like I found that just adding things, constantly adding things, and then taking some away.
Yeah, exactly.
And then add, and then take away, and just keep adding.
Yep. You throw something else, and like, oh, wait, that doesn't work. You can take that away later on.
Right,
Like
right.
it's just never ending.
You have infinite ideas.
Yeah.
Literally infinite ideas. There's no there's no reason to hold on to this little thing because it's 20% you like it or something. Just fucking scrap it. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's easier said than done.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's the best advice ever out there, man.
Yeah.
Just don't get too attached. It's like it's attachment, I guess. It's like being like so attached to something that you put so much time into. But sometimes like it's better to just be like, all right, just let that one go and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and again always talk about this, but Dead Mouse's 80% rule.
Yeah.
You know, or just get it to 80%, and if it's 80%, then it's good enough, and you can come back to it and tweak it if you want later. But you'll find that a lot of times 80% leads to all those 80% lead to 100. You know? And then at the end you're like, oh, I just tricked myself out of tweaking for fucking 10 hours, like one kick drum.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So what's your favorite then? Like what of the hardware you have now? What's kind of your favorite to just jam out on?
Well,
or software.
Well, I guess with like the hardware right now, like I've been really diving into this thing called the Dreadbox Airbus. I just got that recently, and I just been loving it because I've never really dove into the modular world, but it has like a semi-modular capabilities on it, so I'm just experimenting a lot with that, and really starting to fall down that hole and see what's going on.
What does that let you do?
Just with the modular synth and semi-modular, just makes me create like new patches where I can do like new routings that I wasn't able to do before. Like if I want the filter to go ahead and affect the noise where it wasn't routed to before, if I want to, I don't know, like mess with like the clock of like an LFO a different way and have it affect a different thing. And I'm still like just learning it all, but just experimenting, be like, okay, what happens if I take this output of this and put it into the input of here and then do that? And I'm like, okay, that's cool, or then maybe I won't do that one again.
Right, yeah.
But it's experimenting, and this is just making it fresh and making it exciting for me. And then always I just love I love my Moog, my Slim Fatty. I've had that thing now that was my first hardware synth I ever got. About like 9 years ago, so I just know that thing inside and out. So I just like get in there because I just love the tones. Like I can't knock on a Moog filter like all day long. Dude. Yeah.
I will say when I got that one, I was a little disappointed for my first hardware synth.
Yeah.
I mean, not for the tone, not for the. I mean, you can do a lot of cool things with it, but it is a little bit of a one-trick pony. It's kind of there's you can create a lot of sounds, but they're always going to kind of sound like they're coming out of the Moog Slim Fatty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got my Polyevolver where I was really satisfied because it's just, I mean, the Polyevolver is like it's like a modular rack in one synth.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
The sheer amount of routing options is just like mind bending, you know what I mean? And so that was a nice payoff, and I'm still learning it, you know, many years later, and it's like, God, it's just some of it, and there's not a whole lot of like. There's documentation, but not much. You know what I mean? It's like there's user forums, but it really just comes down to like even the manual. Like the manual is just well known for being kind of a fraction of what it needs to be. You know what I mean? Like
they don't want to scare you away with it.
Thanks, Dave. But I would really like to get into modular. I feel like the beauty for me of modular is just the sheer, it's kind of like Burning Man. It's like you have to live in the moment, right? Like there's this thing that's going to happen one time and one time only, and you've made it now, and just if you're gonna, and you kind of have to be ready for it, right? Like you gotta have it plugged into your DAW so you can like record some passes and whatever and capture that sound. But like, you could try to create it again, but it might not ever be
Yeah.
the same.
It'll
Yeah.
never be the same again. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of modular.
Yeah.
It's a very immediate thing, and you have that sound, and then you go with it, and then that's that moment. You capture the moment, because
Right.
music's all about capturing moments.
Yes.
And I feel like when we went down, we were talking earlier about like we get stuck tweaking. You just lose yourself in that moment, and then you're just like obsessed in that one little sound, and then everything else is just out the window.
Right.
Like you're trying to capture an emotion with music. Like
Yeah.
emotions is not something that's like, oh, okay, I'll wait for this, and then I'll go back. No, you're gonna have a different perspective by the time
Right.
you get back to it. So yeah, like that's exactly why I'm falling down this hardware jam role. Like I would love to just in a year or two have a full hardware setup, and I've been using Ableton and just going like that.
Yeah.
I'm actually so a few weeks ago I committed to doing my first live set in Amsterdam in October this year, just because I was just like, you know what, Sean, I've been wanting to do this for a while, I've been jamming with it. Let's put a deadline on getting my first performance out there.
Yeah.
Because deadlines are the greatest thing ever for music. If
Yeah.
you want to get stuff done, they'll get you stuff done.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just put deadlines on myself, and here we go. So I
Right.
start doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you going to perform with? What's it going to be?
So I'm gonna be doing a lot of my stems from Ableton. So I'll be bouncing down a lot of drums and stuff from Ableton. 'Cause I'm gonna be traveling pretty light. But I'm gonna be bringing a little Volca FM synthesizer, and then a little TB03 acid synth. I can just throw those on top. Then yeah, pretty much everything else will be stems inside the box that I've just mixed in Ableton, and just have my APC 40.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's something I have yet to wrap my head around. I feel like I have my push too, and I would like to be able to perform out, especially I think with my friends with benefit stuff. I will say I like to just kind of hop on a pair of CDJs and just jam out
Oh, yeah.
house music and
Yeah.
stuff. Because I can
I'm a
create little
DJ
loops.
first.
Yeah.
I started DJing first.
Yeah.
That was my first thing for me.
Yeah, there's something special about it, and it kind of lends itself to house music. But I feel like my future bassy stuff, if you were to just spin the two to get two tracks together, it's not going to be quite enough, So I feel like I do kind of want to make some loops and make sure the transitions are good and have some extra content in there to kind of fill up the rest of it,
Yeah.
around the edges of the tracks, So yeah, I think, and I've got the push too,
Yeah.
whether it's a push or an APC or whatever,
Yeah.
you kind of do need something tactile.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know.
Because I have the push through for the studio. It's just I love the faders and the APC 40.
Oh, yeah.
That's my DJ background, having
Yeah,
faders.
yeah, right.
So that'll give me a little bit of a comfort zone, just
Yeah.
having that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I love the push too, man. For
Yeah.
the studio, the push too is great. If you have Ableton, the sequencer and push is phenomenal.
And just having everything permanently mapped. That's literally
Yeah.
why I bought it.
Yeah.
Because I was so sick of having, I've got this MIDI, controller, and you map everything, and then you put tape down, but then it doesn't work one day, or you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just want it to work.
Yeah.
And so now with the push, it's every time I load up Ableton, they're so linked that it's just it lends itself for me to creativity. My creativity process is I'm working faster the less amount of roadblocks I'm hitting. You know what I mean?
Flow state.
Flow state, exactly. Right. So are you going to incorporate any of your hardware into your Amsterdam set? Because that.
Yeah. So I'll be doing just my TB03 acid
Oh, right,
synth,
so,
and
yeah.
then the vocal FM. Just because with those two, I can jam out with them, and because they'll give me the ability to improvise with evolving synth textures from either changing up acid lines or really messing around with an FM patch to really get that sequences a little evolving the way I feel it needs to go for the set.
Right.
And that'll be my little training wheels into it, and I'll also have my APC 40 with my stems and stuff like that to go launch them and have all my effects just internally on a return on Ableton.
Nice.
And then yeah, from there I already have my next vision now. Okay, I want to get this, and eventually it'll be my drum machines and my synths, and just have them all there. And have an external MIDI clock or SMPTE or something. Just
Yeah. What's the end goal setup look like?
the angle setup would probably be I like to have one poly synth. I would like to have 3 little sequence boxes, one acid box, one FM box, and then who knows what else? Maybe something that can do some cool. My dread box that I love that can just really do amazing drones and everything, just great, and it's really thick and really fits in the mix really well without having to do a whole lot to it.
God, there's something about hardware.
Yeah,
it just fits in the fucking mix.
Fits in the mix.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, and then my I actually just bought the analog heat recently too, and that's gonna be my
Oh,
master
man.
channel and my out. So my master channel and my out's gonna go.
I want one of those so
through
bad.
through the analog heat. So
Yeah.
because it sounds great, man. I was really impressed with when I heard one, and I was like, wow. And then I was wait, if I put this on like this like lighter setting and then use like the Baxendale EQs inside of it, like this is a great mastering chain, and this is like low latency on my master channel, so I won't have to deal with like latency with it. And I was like, all right, I'm sold. This is my mastering chain now.
So what is it doing? Because I mean, I'm familiar with it, but is it just beefing up the sound? Is it acting as like a stereo glue?
Yeah,
or
so I'm kind of like using it as like a saturator, compressor, gluer type of thing. I mean, it's not a compressor per se, but saturation is compression. It's pretty much just yeah. Right. So I just use it to basically glue everything together because I really like having like a polished finished sound. That's been my one thing with like live for a while. But when I saw a great live act, I was like, how do you like? What's your engineering behind those like flows? Like that sounded so great on that system. And that I would try to do a live set. I was like, dude, my low end's muddy. Like my high end is not sheening on there. My mid range is kind of because it's so muddy, it's being ducked down. And I was like, and then just figuring out like how to do that live without having with the ability to like sit in my DAW and just like have the endless opportunity to then bounce it to a stem.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's like less is kind of more. You just need like some quality stuff that just holds it all together for you, and then the rest is you just run and just play it by ear.
Right.
Yeah.
I was so impressed when I saw the demo video of the analog heat.
Yeah.
You know, just like the different. I mean, you can completely fuck up your sound.
Yeah.
Or you can kind of treat it lightly, and then there's also like, can you do like automations with it?
Yeah,
Or,
you have that envelope follower. It has
Yeah.
LFOs on it. It has a great filter on it too, which I could decide on like for like my live set. I'll use like that for like my filter because it'll be on my master out, and it sounds great. So I was like, perfect. It even fits in that need for me too, because I like having just one knob per function. I don't like menu diving. Like menu diving, especially live. No, it's not gonna happen. So as long as I have one knob for something, I'm cool with that, and that fit that bill perfectly. So and then all of the saturation and distortion on it sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like you can really go
They're bit crushing.
Yeah.
Finding a good bit crusher is like not easy.
No, it's not.
A lot of them just sound very tinny and digital and kind of just ruin your sound. You know what I mean? So finding one that like actually makes it sound good. You know, like I would like to get one too, almost just for the bit crusher. I have a dream of having like a whole bunch of like my kind of old school studio setup, having like some old school samplers, maybe like a synth, maybe like a digital recorder, not a DAW, but like a literal digital, or maybe
like a tape recorder,
or maybe a 4-track, like a Tascam or something. You know what I mean? And then and just have like like an analog heat after each synth or something. Yeah. I also this is like bucket list idea is I want to make a hardware sampler. Yeah. One day.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, it would take a lot of mental fortitude and a lot of money and R&D and all that. But I have like a kind of an idea for, and Dave Smith kind of touched on it when he made his what's the new one, the Prophet X.
Oh yeah,
the Prophet X. Where it's got the 2 sample banks and the 2 synth banks. So I feel like it would be something kind of like that. He didn't quite nail it as far as my vision goes. I mean, he did a killer job. Like that thing has jumped to the top of my.
That's the film score's dream.
Oh man, like just the sheer. I mean, it reminds me of the ASR 10. Being able to take instruments and then also mix them with samples, but you can treat the samples like an instrument as far as like an envelope and LFO and all that stuff. And there's just something magical about that, like because it gets otherworldly.
Oh yeah,
really quickly.
I mean, look what hip hop did with sampling back in the day, because they're able to do stuff like that with the hardware sampling. And just sampling is a big part of electronic music and how it changed like the scope of what the future held for pop music and dance music as a whole. So I love being like creative sampling. If you know where the sample comes from, you're like, dang, how do you do that? That's pretty killer. So man, it's a fascinating time right now because hardware hardware went out for a while and now it's coming back in.
It's coming back hard.
Yeah, it's coming back hard.
Like hard. Yeah. And I'm over here rooting for Behringer. Fuck
me too, man.
I'm make all this shit.
Yeah, right.
Make it all affordable. You know what I mean? Because I want it.
$300 for SH101. Are you kidding me? All right, sign me up for that.
And all these people fucking hating on it and all pissed off. I'm like, you fucking curmudgeons. Just let people have their shit. You know what I mean? Let people enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want it to be this fucking gatekeeping thing where you gotta have $4,000 for an SH-101. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man. You open up to the masses, and that's what's happening right now too, and that's why it's cool to just see this new wave of young talent coming through too. That just like jamming out on some awesome like analog synths, and but it's just sounding so fresh and new. So, yeah, the future. Hopefully this trend keeps on going because like I'm gonna be spending way too much money.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Have you seen Sunshine Jones' setup?
I haven't actually seen his live setup, but I love his content online. I watch his YouTube videos. I have a few Roland boutiques, and he creates those like extended manuals for him.
Yeah,
so I dive into those because they're way better than the Roland ones. Sorry, Roland, but like he goes down into the deep end and gives really nice little tips and stuff.
I really appreciate when people do that.
Yeah.
There's like a Carbon 111 or something. That's the user created manual for the Poly Evolver, and that really kind of like like it clicked. You know what I mean? They started filling, and it even had some like kind of like instructions like do this and this and this, and that's when you get into kind of this like tutorial mode where I feel like more manuals should have that sort of thing, like walk me through it. You know what I mean? Because because that's essentially what you're gonna have to go online anyway and search the thing and whatever YouTube, and it may or may not be all that great. You know what I mean? There's just something kind of like having your hand held the first way. So when I bought my ASR 10 originally, I bought on eBay. It was probably the first year that eBay existed, but I bought a DVD set for the ASR 10. And it was straight up like made in the 80s.
No, great.
This dude was wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. I mean, he looked like one of my friend's dads. You know what I mean? He had like the big full beard, kind of heavier set with a Hawaiian shirt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like explaining the ASR 10
VHS
functions.
Distortion with the cool little
right. But he was kind of killing it on the ASR 10. It's like it was really well done.
Yeah.
And that was just invaluable, especially at that time when YouTube definitely didn't exist.
That was
definitely didn't exist, right? And so that's kind of why I ended up buying the hardware keyboard versus software, because it was like, I mean, shit,
tangible, it's in front of you.
And limited too, you know. And people are so lucky these days, as well as us, but making music. I mean, if you want to make a different genre or style, or you need a different technique or something like that, you can it's just a fucking plethora.
Oh yeah,
For better or for worse.
It's for better or for worse. Yeah. Options can be a little too much now. That's where you can get stuck with it. But it's just like if you can think of it, you can do it. Like you can easily do it if you can just think of it. So.
Right. So with your music making process, what where do you start on a track?
So what I've been doing is I have this like folder of like samples that have like sound design or something like that, so I can get like a good thing going with like a bass with like a beat or something, just so I can like have this kick drum that I spent like 4 hours on, just like really like I have like sound design sessions, and I have writing sessions.
Yep.
And I kind of mix as I write, but then I have like a bounce to audio and do like a full mix down of that afterwards, and then sometimes I actually master my own music as well. Just been doing that for a while, or at that point then I'll just send it out to a mastering engineer. But the process for me, I feel if I break it down, instead of trying to do everything at one time, is much more fluent for me. Before, I used to get into these habits of I would just sit down and say, all right, I'm gonna write music, and then I'd have this sample folder which is a ton of samples in it, and then like they were like not really organized as maybe like a kicks and something like that, but there were like hundreds of kicks, and so I was like, all right, which kick is the kick I want? And okay, I'm gonna try to layer it with this kick, and cool, now I got a good kick going like 20 minutes later. And now I'm going to get my hi-hats and my bass going. And I just like, Sean, you just need to get rid of all that. So now I just like have like these like 30 kicks that I love. And then I'll still have like my sound design sessions and stuff. But then after I get all that set up, then I just have my writing session where it's just like, all right, time to just start messing around with patterns and structure and getting a loop going. I actually, a lot of people say to don't even go in session view in Ableton, just start in arrangement view. But like I love session view. Like I just love being able to jam in session view. Like try one thing, see if it works, see if it doesn't work, and if it does, great. And then if it's not, or if I'm kind of iffy, I can just start another clip and then just have another riff going, and go back and forth between two. And then sometimes I combine between the two, and go there. And then after that, like just go with the flow, because at that point when I got that foundation going, it frees up a lot of mental space to be more creative moving forward instead of like using all my energy within the first 2 hours just trying to get a drum loop that I like.
Yeah. See, I think I need to dive back into session view.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I've found ways to stay out of Loopville, but it's very easy to fall into that.
Oh yeah, very.
You know what
It
I mean?
is. Yeah, that's why I get out of it eventually. Like after I get like stuff I like and get all these clips down that I really like, I'll then take it over to arrangement view and then go from there. And like in the arrangement view, then I'll like take this loop that I really like and just copy paste it for like 6 minutes and then just kind of start subtracting like what I don't want here and what I don't want here.
Right.
And after I get that bass, and then that's where it starts getting into all like the nitty gritty, like starting to do
Yeah.
all the ear candy, starting to go ahead and get this
The
transition,
build-ups
kind
and
of
the-
like polishing well with
Yeah.
this, so it's not jarring, and like how to creatively do this, or it's like another thing too is like don't take the easy way out. Don't just like, okay, this needs like a riser, so just put in a white filter, like a white noise filter sweep up there. Like be creative with it. Like get a reverb in there and then start messing around with like reverb size or like
Yeah.
something like that. That is like not so like, I mean, unless you wanted to make it like really in your face, but right now I'm in this moment where I want everything to not be so obvious. I want everything
Yeah,
to be kind
right.
of, I want it to like when people hear it, they're like, wow, that was dope, but like that wasn't the normal thing that I'm
Yeah.
used to hearing. So just being more subtle and just finding creative ways to like do the same thing, or instead of like having like a 909 or 808 snare roll to just build something up, like use like take a delay, resample the delay, and then take that and then mess with that to
Or
get
a little
that
vocal hit or something
little
instead of a
vocal hit.
snare.
Yeah, exactly.
I had some really good, and this is something I try to do actively every time I create like a build up. Is I started using like weird, like engine bay noises from like boats and things like that, like
Yeah.
that have this really organic, crackly, just gnarly, whatever. There's movement, but it's white noise essentially.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly, yeah.
And you use that as whether you loop it or maybe it's a 30-second long file or something. But you use that and you filter sweep that, and then you add your reverb to that, and then the result is just so much more organic than just some
Exactly.
white noise out of Serum that
Yeah.
you've automated your filter sweep and
Yeah, one of my
perfectly.
favorite noises ever that I have was just this field recording of me like just out in like this forest. So you just had like little leaves rustling and stuff like that. But I just put a resonant filter on it and like moved that up and put a bunch of reverb on it and just gave it like a white noise type of feel. But like after like some stereo processing and stuff too, to just make it sound like a little bit more engulfing in your stereo field, it just sounded so much more interesting and engaging.
Yeah.
Because like people were like, okay, kind of, I know this roll that this is playing, but that's not exactly a noise that like I'm used to hearing.
Right.
It's stuff like that that really just sets your stuff apart, I feel. From every day.
It fucks me up though too, because I was just last night listening to a really good Camel Fat remix, and I fucking love Camel Fat, and I was listening to the build-ups, and sure as shit, it's just a fucking white noise build, like a white noise sweep, and I'm like, you motherfuckers, like, why is it so good? Like,
yeah, I mean, if it works, it works, right? So
Yeah.
that's why people have been doing it for ages, right? Because it does work.
Yeah.
But for me personally, right now, it's just like I just needed that little bit more. Like
Yeah.
I need a little bit more, a little extra detail.
I'm kind of always on a search for organic.
Yeah,
Organicness.
Yeah, organic. It's organic mixed with electronic. Like it sounds so great. Like a good
Yeah.
tip is like if you want a great sounding kick drum, like take like a low end like 909 or something, but then layer it with like a live like snare, not snare drum, but kick drum, like the beater that hits on that kick drum, just mixed with the organic sound, just like
Yeah.
makes that transient just pop really
Or even
well.
like a door slamming or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I've done that
anything.
too.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like, because it kind of adds this, I don't know, like subliminal thing that goes on where like you kind of know it's a door slamming, but it sounds like a kick drum, and it's like, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just adds this other layer of question to like not so obvious.
Because it's familiar, but it's so your ear picks up on it, but then you can't truly define it as what
right,
it is.
and it's repeating.
Yeah.
And you're just expecting a kick drum, so you're like, oh, I don't, I think that's what it is when you're as a listener, when your brain starts to tap out because
Yeah.
you can't reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Like those are my favorite producers.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the
same.
people that I listen to, and I'm like,
You're just like,
I don't fucking know how he did that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like a lot of Flume's shit.
Yeah.
Like my brain is checked out of the door, and now I'm just, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
try, but I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah. I've had many of those artists too. They're just like, you listen and you just like, that's what I love is like how. And when
Yeah.
you ask the question how, you like how did you do that? That's just phenomenal. Or like hearing like a lot of these like techno artists I'm into now, instead of like having like a normal structure, like they'll bring something in on a completely odd time signature, odd beat, and it's just like polymetric, and but it works so well. And
Yeah.
then you're just like, that was amazing.
You know
like,
who did that really well was we were just I watched Gorgon City's set at Burning Man this year.
Okay.
And they played twice, and the set was so good we watched it twice.
Yeah.
But they have this one track, and I don't know what it is. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but it has this big breakdown, and it has kind of this like a polyrhythmic breakdown where this synth is. You know when you've I don't know exactly what it is, but you got like maybe a grain size, or you've got it hooked up to an arpeggio or something, and you slow the BPM way down. Maybe like if it's not hooked up to the master tempo, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like it's doing this,
Yeah.
and then it's getting you know, and it goes all the way down to that, and then it starts to like build back up, and it just really like it draws your ear in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's not you're not really dancing at that moment. You're just kind of like,
Or you're sucked in because like you're just hearing on that loud system too, and you're like, what
Yeah,
is this
right.
suspenseful moment happening?
right,
Yeah.
right. God, man, the festivals. I can't even really call. I know you can't call Burning Man a festival, but for a lack of a better word, like just festivals and stuff like that. The sheer amount of creativity I come away with at the end of those. I mean, you know, for the music that I've heard and the vibe and all the art is just like paramount. You
Yeah.
know? It's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I just said that earlier with like when I went to Detroit, and like completely just like changed everything for me. And as I got to Detroit, I was like, gave me a whole new vision of like what I want out of my career, and like what sound resonates with me in the community that just like speaks volumes to me. And I was like,
Right.
all right, this is it. And then
Yeah.
I was like, that's when I really started like focusing on this new part of me where it's like, all right, might not have output now for a little while because I'm going on this whole soul searching moment, but I just know that this is where I want to be, and I'm excited to see where I end up with it.
Right.
Yeah.
What was it about? Yeah, you said Chicago.
No, Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah,
What was
for
it about
movement.
Detroit that kind of
Oh my
changed
god! It was
things for you?
just the atmosphere, the sheer talent of these DJs that like. So when I went to the movement festival itself, I ended up just in like what I call like the bunker, which is like the underground stage, and I just went there. I forget who I saw. It was like the first act. It might have been like non-compliant or someone just absolutely killing it in there, and then I just got stuck there. And then like the whole weekend when I was at movement, I just beelined it straight to that underground stage because it was just amazing. And like this makes me sound a little jaded, but like a lot of like DJ acts like these days like don't really fully excite me. And like that whole entire weekend I was just completely from beginning to end just engaged 100%. Like
Right.
wow, like I love DJs that take risks.
Yeah.
Like I love like if I can like hear a DJ, I'm like, okay, you got like this job build coming up, and then okay, now 32 bars, you gotta have this breakdown, stuff like that. Like it'll be fun. The party's hopping, it'll be fun, and just have some fun and do that. But I'm not like fully engaged into the music. When I hear like people just taking these risks and doing these odd mixes that work out so amazingly well at the end, and I feel like the energy build off is way higher because of it. It just gets me like so like enthralled and like just wanting to like get back in there myself and just keep on going.
Right.
And so that whole weekend was just filled with that, from like the actual festival to all the after parties. And like I was like a raver like when I first moved to like Arizona and stuff too, and like it just had that rave vibe, man. And, like
Yeah.
it was dark, it was dirty, it was just people getting down because they're there for the music. Like it
Yeah.
was dark.
I miss
and
that. I think we're missing a little bit of that these days in San Francisco.
Mhm.
A lot of the clubs have been like kind of polished over, you know, for better or for worse.
Yeah, yeah.
I always talk fondly about the catacombs in Temple, because they reminded me. I don't know if you remember, like the before it was redone, it was like.
So I moved here about 3.5 years ago.
Okay, so
yeah.
you probably missed it.
Yeah,
But, it used to. Excuse me. I still have ply voice. It used to be just like black like this. All the walls and the DJ booth, and it was really low ceilings, and the walls were spray painted with these like tribal patterns in neon paint, and then they had black lights everywhere.
Sounds like a fun spot for me.
Yeah, but something about it just screamed like dark, dank, and it was underground. You literally had to go downstairs. It just screamed like 90s, early 2000s, like, you know, rave vibe. You know what I mean? But not like rave, not like EDC rave, but like legitimate warehouse.
Like, I remember when I first moved to Arizona, and because I first started raving in upstate New York, and like did like Quick Fix, and there was a guy named Mikey Parquet, and like Dose the Alien. They were like doing all the parties up there, and like they would still have them at like club atmospheres or stuff like that. Which is still cool, but there were like establishments. When I moved to Arizona, there's this guy named Vic, and he was just breaking in the warehouses in the warehouse district. And like, you get a text at like 7 p.m. at night saying where to go, or like call this number from the map point. And I remember being in that. I was like, oh, dude, this is. And I went to my first one, and it was this like 3-story warehouse where like I look back on it now, and that was like probably not the safest spot to be. It was all abandoned. I remember like to get up to that 3rd story, like these stairs were like just so narrow.
Rusty nails.
Just old. But I remember going in there and just being like, what? And like I first got into it, I was into like Hard House, like U.S. Hard House, like Angel Alanis, or like Bad Boy Bill when he was doing the Hard House, and then maybe some like psytrance, like more like Skazi or Infected Mushroom and stuff like that. And I moved to Arizona, and it was like Gabber, or like they had there was like Happy Hardcore was a thing too. Like I remember I can't stand Happy Hardcore.
No.
But there was a phase. I was a candy kid when I was in Arizona, living like rocking the candy and all that stuff. And then just having that environment, and just like every weekend just being in this warehouse with like 1,500 other people that are just all there, and it's totally legal. Like this is nothing about this at all that is even remotely legal right now. But like everyone was there because they wanted to be there, and it was like underground, because like back then Phoenix's warehouse district was just abandoned. It was just a bad spot to be. It's completely different now. Like downtown Phoenix is so nice now compared to what it used to be. Whenever I go back there and visit, like I played back there in May, and I went to this spot called Barsmith. Shout out Pete Salas and Sean Badger. I love those people. I just remember like going up in the rooftop, and now there's like skyscrapers behind them. There's never skyscrapers there before that spot. But yeah, man, like starting out with that like rave culture, just like getting back to that with like Detroit is like that was like this is who I was, and this is who I am. This is what I want to be, and like it just revitalized me.
Yeah, it's nice to have those moments, like wherever you get them.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a nightclub or a different city or whatever.
Yeah.
So what about festivals? Have you played many festivals, or do you plan on it?
Yeah. I played. I played. I'm actually going playing in Arizona in 2 weeks for their.
That was the.
For the Stargate Festival.
Stargate, yeah. Nice.
Which will be cool, because that's like a lot of old AZ heads too that have like all moved away, and it's this last party on this land that we used to throw parties on all the time. I guess they've been throwing raves there since the '90s, called Gateway Ranch, owned by this amazing individual. She's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my entire life. But this is like kind of like the last time on the land. Mm-hmm. So like. They hit me up and like, hey Sean, like this is the last one. And I was like, I would love to be a part of it. Then let's do this. This is so much history here, and this is beautiful up in northern Arizona. So you see, and there's like a mountain called the San Francisco Peaks. It's like right over there, and it just looks gorgeous.
Oh my God!
And it'll be cool to like finally give that like a goodbye, like after like raving there for like 10 years, and being like, thank you for all the magical moments you gave me.
Right.
And so like stuff like that. I love those type of festivals. I used to play like stuff like Firefly, and other stuff like that. And then when I play like newer festivals now, I still love them to death. But like I love a festival that has that old community vibe, like still just like built into it, where like the people that like started it are all still there doing it for all the right reasons, and that's just like. That just builds on the vibe. Like, there's no wrong go right. It's one of those moments where like, you just walk onto like the DJ booth, and you're just like, the vibe is so thick. It's like you could do no wrong. Like I could be like blind or like no arms and anything. I could just still just know it's just the vibe is gonna carry me through.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. That's kind of a life goal, is to have like a big plot of land and like do something like that. You know, because that's I know Shambhala. So I have some friends that go to Shambhala every year, and it's the same thing. I think it's privately owned land. You know. And I oftentimes wonder like how much risk you're taking as a landowner. You know what I mean?
It's private property. I mean,
it's private property.
But I get it. Yeah.
Sign a waiver or something. You know what I mean? It's
what you gotta do.
It's like snowboarding,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you assume your own risk.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah, big time. I actually tore my PCL snowboarding this past
Oh
year.
no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
I've got knee problems too.
Yeah.
I'm missing half my meniscus.
We're getting old, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I got reminded of that because I had the meniscus surgery done when I was like 16 or something.
Oh,
It's
wow.
been fine ever since, even though the doctor told me I was gonna be walking with a cane when I was 30, which did not happen.
Haha.
Aha! Gotcha, bitch. No, but then I was playing kickball with my roommates, drunken kickball in Golden Gate Park. It was like a little muddy, it's grassy, and I came home. Everything was fine, but I came home and all of a sudden it's just like clicking, and then like I can't close it all the way, and I'm like, oh god damn it! Like,
yeah, sometimes now I'll be like bending down too long, and then getting up. I'm like, oh
yeah.
Where's my walker?
Every
at?
bone cracks on the way up.
Oh yeah. That's another great thing about music is no matter how beat up I put my body, because I'm an avid snowboarder and everything as well.
Yeah.
Like, at least I'll be able to hobble into a DJ booth and
Man.
still
When you're
go
75.
Yeah, 75.
Yeah.
I'll still be doing it, man. Yeah.
That's great. So what about Burning Man? You played because I just got back from Burning Man. You had to skip the year.
Yeah, I skipped this year, but years past. Burning Man, the Burning Man scene has helped me out a lot. Like I've had a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of closest connections I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Excuse me, from Burning Man, and I played at multiple of my friends' camps out there, like Tashi from Opulent Temple and Opulent Chill. She's been amazing with me and giving me opportunities out there to play at their beautiful space, or my friends from Colorado. And that's what I love about Burning Man is like all of my friends from around the country are always in one spot at one time. So it's like a constant reunion and just meet up with all the old homies and say, hey, have some fun, throw down some tunes, hang out. And yeah, man, this is Burning Man's an adventure for time, and it's through the Burning Man culture actually that I moved to San Francisco. Believe it or not, it was 2015. There was a regional burn in Arizona called Saguaro Man, and I met this girl, still my partner to this day, Wendy. And she moved out to San Francisco shortly afterwards, and I kept coming out here to visit. And at the time, I was like doing music out there, but I was also working this tech job that was kind of draining, right? Doing the double 9 to 5 thing. And she was like, hey, we have a spare room out here. You want to come try to give San Francisco a shot? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm definitely going to give San Francisco a shot. And I came out here, and I was getting by on like doing like private like production and DJ lessons, and then doing like some like Uber on the side and stuff like that, and then just focusing myself all on music. And now here we are 3.5 years because of the Burning Man scene and the Burning Man culture. I'm still here in San Francisco, and just I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. No.
I always tell people like I've been a lot of places in the world, and Thailand's got to be my second favorite place in the world. But there's just no reason to leave. It's so. It's just, I'm sure New York has an amazing scene. I think LA would be awesome, but there's so many things that I think I would miss when I left. You know what I mean? And with LA, it would be like the public transportation and just being able to get around everywhere. 15, 20 minutes, max. And like, and the people too. And there's something about being in San Francisco where you can be here at Halcyon and. You can be dancing with, there's a bunch of ravers wearing, candy next to you. And then on your other side is like some like tech CEO. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone's so blended in and congealed together. Oh, yeah. And it doesn't matter. And they don't want it to matter. You know what I mean?
That's San Francisco for you, right? Like there's that famous meme of Mark Zuckerberg back in like 2009. Oh, yeah. I guess there's a place called like The Compound. I was talking to my friend Jeremy about it from As You Like It, and he's just telling me the stories of back then. It's just like, like the one thing I love about like the Bay Area is like there's no like boxes are like boxes are like not a thing here. Like people don't put themselves in the boxes here like they do in some other places, and that kind of like feeds on itself as like a place I want to be, because like I don't like being put in the box. As soon as I get myself put in the box, I feel like I have to like conform to that box, and I don't want to conform to any box. That's got to be me. And this is a place where I feel I can do that like as a home base.
Absolutely, yeah. And I kind of got that too, driving Lyft and Uber. It was kind of more of the same. It was like, one person would be like a Starbucks barista, and the next person was literally like the CEO of Twitter, and like I'm talking to them, as if they're, it's nice, you know. It's like this de-escalation, I suppose, of social status, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas LA, I feel like people a little bit more, you know, it's like this. Look at me, and you know, if they're at a club, they're gonna have like a VIP table and that sort of thing.
I call it like the. Don't get me wrong, I love all my LA friends, love all my homies out there, but yeah, it's I call it more Hollywood-esque out there. It's just like everything's a little bit more of a presentation.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying like that for everyone, but like it's just like out here, like I don't feel like there's that extra layer. People aren't what they do out there; they're who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So you're a resident DJ here.
Yep.
At Halcyon.
Yeah.
Which is why your face is familiar, because I've for sure gonna come down. I don't think we actually ever like, you know, it's always like I'm running around with my hair on fire, making sure everything's all right. You know what I mean? The DJ usually gets started. But what are some of your other like favorite places to play here, or like what, you know?
Definitely. Well, I like a lot of other places like Monarch. I like it for their like little like rave cave that they have in the downstairs floor. I like going over to F8 a lot too, because F8 got that really like home. Like F8, I feel has like a great like home based vibe where it's like dark. It's not really flashy, but like everyone that's gonna be there for that night are there strictly for that artist that's gonna be there.
Yeah.
So I love that about that as well. Yeah, like Halcyon, like Raya and Gina and the team, they've all treated me so nice over here too. So like it's hard to say one because there's a lot happening in San Francisco all the time. So I can't pinpoint just one club. I'm just grateful that there's a whole network of them that like I like to go to and like be around the people with. So grateful for that.
Yeah, I always tell people like I started working here and I actually hadn't been here. Same as with the Midway. When I first started working the Midway, I hadn't been there. You know, partially because I moved out of the city for a while and then I came back. But I didn't really know like what I had kind of stepped into. You know, and it took me like a couple months to realize. And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like this is amazing. Like if there's a vibe that I want to be a part of, like this is it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a really nice kind of realization. Have you been to Phono Bar at all?
Oh yeah, I've been to Phono Bar. I like Phono Bar a lot. Dude, that DJ booth that they have at Phono Bar. Like,
I talk about it too much.
Yeah,
I'm just too big of a fan. Like,
yeah, like props to Chuck and Tom, man.
Yeah.
That DJ booth is absolutely phenomenal. Like, if you love vinyl, because I'm a big vinyl guy too. That's why I started out on the vinyl. I love just collecting vinyl because it's just like something about tangibly holding a piece of music and mixing it to me. Like when I'm at home, I never mix on my CDJs. I just mix on vinyl if I ever want to mix, just because I feel like that's more engaging to me. Because if it's on like CDs, not knocking it, but I can just like set it and forget it and go.
Yeah.
And like that, when with vinyl, I'm just like feeling like I'm like really romanticizing my music and I'm present with it at all times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of lost track of what was the
Oh
question.
yeah, well, Phono Bar. Like I feel like there's not many places. I mean, this place for sure. But something about Phono Bar, like the people that own that place, you can tell is just like there's such audiophiles.
Oh, there's such audiophiles.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's from the rotary mixer to the
great.
booth. It's just like it's really nice to see, and you know, especially with kind of how you know. I don't know, commoditized everything is getting in San Francisco. You know, mezzanine closing for you know apartments and stuff like that, or office buildings or whatever. And
yeah, it's not all peaches out here in San Francisco for sure. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're doing fine over there. You know, I mean, it's a hot little spot.
Yeah, but the high rises speak money.
Yeah,
some people, so
right.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah, man. But go back to like Phono Bar and stuff too. Is like over there, like what I love about the attention to detail is like when you go out to a lot of places nowadays, like vinyl is kind of not a second thought, but it's not like a main staple in like their booth. But over there they did the vinyl, and then they optimize it with that rotary mixer that they have. That just like that dynamic range on that thing is just like my favorite. It's my second favorite mixer I ever played on. My favorite mix I ever played on was actually in Arizona it was a Yuri rotary mixer that had each channel had its own dope reel isolators on it, and just like being able to once you mix in a system like that and like you realize how much headroom you have, how smooth you can make everything, it's like wow. It's just playing on a nice system. Like I will say too, like I love Halcyon system. I
Oh,
think
it's
Halcyon system is good job, man.
I
Like,
yeah.
It sounds phenomenal.
I only
on here.
partially have a hand in it. I mean,
Yeah.
I run it, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the guys that set it up, Don is just a genius, an audio
Yeah.
genius, and you know, worked with Gina on getting all of it set up, and I'm partial, of course, I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best sounding systems
Yeah,
in the
agreed.
Bay Area. You know,
Agreed.
it's just again, always say this, but it's like. The club sounds like really big studio monitors.
Yeah.
There's no flat spots. There's no dead spots. You can't hear the crossovers cutting off
No.
your music in various parts, and it's just like that's so rare.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
like no phasing issues, and it's like I love it when I can hear like a transient just hit me.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And also taking a risk. You know, I mean, not a lot of places have the Pioneer system.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I don't know why we should be surprised. I mean, Pioneer makes fantastic stuff. You know, we're using their headphones and all the CDJs and the industry standard. So I feel like they did it right. With
Yeah,
the
good sound
speakers.
system is a good sound system no matter what it is. No matter if it's Pioneer, if it's Danley, if it's Function, if it's Void.
Yeah.
All that matters is if you tune it right, it's gonna sound
Right.
good. Like
Right.
when you have that kind of firepower behind your back, like
Yeah.
it's all in the hands of the beholder. Like whoever's doing this, like
Yeah.
if you're gonna make it sound good, it's gonna sound good.
Right. Well, so somebody pointed that out to me about like Function One systems or whatever, like at various venues where they might move things around a lot, for various acts and that sort of thing. Is like you're kind of subject to different placement and different engineers that know kind of some might know more than others, and so it's difficult because you're working with a lot of like pieces and it things get lost in that, I suppose, and so one set might not be quite as consistent as the other, and that's why like when I started here I was like, oh fuck, like everything's just it's set.
It's dialed.
It's dialed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And so honestly, like I'm a pretty great sound engineer, both live and in the studio. But here I end up doing mostly lighting.
Yeah.
Which is
dope.
fine.
I mean, the lighting is dope too.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is just have consistently good sound.
Yeah.
So if that's the end goal and it's already taken care of, then it's
Then
like
you don't need to mess with it.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're good.
Yeah. Well, I can get my sound kicks like elsewhere,
Yeah.
like side gigs or whatever, and just the chance to like learn lighting and use lighting on this system has been incredible. It's like, it's wild. It's fucking.
It is wild.
And especially with the new upgrades we recently switched it over to a program called Madrix. And I don't know if you know much about lighting, but
Not too much.
Okay, yeah. So we had this kind of proprietary software that was written for the club, and it worked well. It was a well-written bit of software. But the problem was it was just very limited. You only had maybe 30 looks that you could mix between, and maybe 10 of those were the same looks, more or less.
Yeah.
So you really only had like 15 looks that you could really use. So you could keep things moving, but there wasn't a whole lot of like, wow, like new, So this new Magic software, you can really program in, they have a lot of kind of like presets, like a synth or whatever, or a plugin would have. So you have all these presets you can select from. You can tweak those. You can tweak those on a macro or like a micro level and a macro level. And then beyond that, there's also like a video function, which is the real game changer.
That's cool.
Because what you can do is you can take, and the caveat is it can take a lot of time, especially for something like this, because what this is it's like one big LCD screen, but it's really low resolution, very low resolution, because we're talking about individual lines here, not stacks of
Not a
LEDs.
big panel,
Yeah, so if you put a picture up of a smiley face, you're not really going to be able to see it. So that being said, like you have to spend a good amount of time to find things that work on it, but when you do, it's fucking incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I spent a lot of hours going through YouTube and finding like DJ or VJ clips and stuff like that, and trying them out. Doesn't work. Or try it out. Doesn't work. Try it out. Oh, that one's fucking sick. Save that. And then I had a thought just a couple weeks ago. I was like, well, I do video, So like, why don't I just make my own video files? So I started thinking, okay, like, well, how do I, like, what's the best way to do that? I could do it on the computer. I could use Premiere or After Effects, and like, which I still might do. I think I might do that eventually. But I kind of jumped for the easiest of the two solutions. And what I did is I turned off the lights in the whole club, and I set up my cell phone over there on a little tripod,
Like,
and I bought some glow sticks. And I literally like
bringing it back.
Yeah, I brought glow sticks, which is kind of meta.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, for sure, yeah.
And so what I did is Sean, Sean that works here, we just waved them back and forth in front of the camera phone in various patterns and stuff and rhythms. And then I took those and I put them into the software, and it fucking works so well.
That's dope.
So now what you see is this line that'll be like, and then it'll go left to right,
I
up and down, up and down.
See that, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that'll be a new exciting experience.
I kind of save those for peak hour because they're very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's all this like digital noise in the background with like colors and stuff. It just like, it's so cool. And the fact that it's a glow stick too is
just bringing it back.
It's bringing it back. Yeah.
I remember it was my friend that night when he like brought over and like showed me the Bad Boy Bill and Infected Mushroom. Mm-hmm. He also had glow sticks and he put them on 2 strings and just started doing poi in front of me, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I kind of miss back to it, the days when that was an exciting thing.
Yeah,
I feel like
right.
I'm so like dulled to it now, I suppose, because I've seen it so much. It's still really cool when someone's doing really good poi. Yeah. But you've just seen so many fucking light shows and just
got the little gloves going on.
The gloves,
back in the day.
I don't think that'll ever impress me again.
No.
But
that was a special time.
There's not enough substances to make that exciting,
I could try.
Yeah. But poi and fire spinning, all that shit, And again, at Burning Man, like, just saw like a bunch of just the peak, the top talent of that kind of stuff. You're just walking by like, what the fuck? Like,
that's what I love about Burning Man, man. It's like Burning Man's like I actually am more excited about the art than I even am the music out there, just because it's so larger than life, and you're never gonna see that anywhere else. Like I remember, my favorite thing was like last year's Burn when I was riding my bike, just in deep playa, and just all of a sudden seeing a bunch of these drones just in the air off in the distance, all synchronized light show together, and I was like, what? It looked like a warp portal, like just opened up in the sky, and I was just I just started biking right towards it. I was like, I have to go see what this is, and like you don't experience like that, like
detour.
Detour, detour to a path I had no idea where I was going with in the first place.
That's the best part. It's just the live in the moment part. You just like shiny object. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I actually saw one of those. I was working like a side gig. I think it was Intel did like some big celebration for their 50th reunion or 50th year or something. I don't know. But they had this drone show that was it was like over their offices in Santa Clara, and it was synced to music, and it was probably like 1,000 drones, and it was just insane.
I think that might have been it might have been Intel drones. It might have been that Burning Man. So it could have been that because it was. Mind blowing, and so like massive too.
It was like huge. It was bigger than any stage or structure there.
Yeah,
probably 500 feet tall. And it was like doing these shapes like they did, just kind of like
floating in midair.
Floating, right? Right. Well, it was like I think they did that for the Olympics too, and they did like a snowboarder and that sort of thing. And for this, I don't quite remember what they did. It was like hummingbird and some other things, but yeah, I mean it's insane. It's like each drone turns into a pixel.
Yeah.
And then they're moving in 3D space. It's like something that you can't even really wrap your head around.
You have a whole other axis you have to even think about.
Yeah. And it sounds like a fucking angry swarm of bees.
Yeah. That's the thing with Burning Man for me, man. It's like that whole just inspiration thing that comes from it. It was just seeing larger than life stuff.
Yeah. It just felt like, especially when we watched Carl Cox. He did a techno set, and like fuck, I thought I liked techno before, but after seeing it at Burning Man, Carl Cox playing, it was at Playground.
Okay.
And it was apocalyptic. It was like with the fucking fire things going off, the poof, poof, and every time it goes off, it just turns into daylight, and you're just looking around, and everyone's dressed like fucking like Mad Max. It just blows your mind in a way that I couldn't possibly have imagined. Nobody can explain that to you. There's no photos or videos that will do it justice. And the sheer size of it. The sheer size, like I thought I had seen a big festival, you know, and it was like, you'll see, it felt like, you know, where I live in the Sunset, it felt like,
Sunset
look,
represent.
yeah. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
It felt like I was looking at the ferry building and lasers were coming all the way over my head, and it probably was that far, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in actuality it's only like 2.5 miles or something like that, but I mean, it may as well have been.
Yeah.
You know, if you set up the same lasers on the ferry building, they would probably do the same thing, you know, over your head in the sunset, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
And the spotlights and all
Yep.
that, you know? I wish I had I didn't really get a whole lot of time to like spend on art cars. I think as a virgin burner, I was still like walking around like a toddler.
Yeah, yeah.
At McDonald's playground, like I just didn't really.
Oh
you know?
yeah. I usually just rode my bike around anyways and like stop at the art cars, but I've never really. I get on them if like they weren't like overcrowded, but like I'm not a person that hate being one of those people that are like stuck in a little like store, can't move a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was always just I would like dance outside of it.
Free
Stuff
flowing.
like, free flowing.
Yeah.
Like that,
And some of the like just the camps.
Yeah.
The little setups and you could just be we wandered by this one and it was like, this is a room full of balloons. We walked in and it was just this blue room. It was like blue lit. It was nighttime and white balloons. You just walk in and you like have to take your shoes off and you get in and it's just this big net, like this ball pit of balloons. And you just go in. It was one of the best moments of this year.
Man.
Just playing.
Yeah.
Just sheer playing.
And the
like,
child comes out.
Yeah. And it's like, if we can stoke that in regular kind of, you know, default world more, you know, I feel like people would be a lot happier.
Oh yeah, that's why
know?
people come out to like music shows and stuff, right? Because it gives them like that inspiration, like, and that's why it feels so great to like be on the giving end of that, where like if you're behind the deck and you're able to like create these moments for these people too, where they're just able to let go for even if it's just for that moment, to just let go of like what's going on in their life and just be in the moment and just like set free. Like that's such a powerful moment for me.
Really
that's what
is.
keeps me like going. Like when I get that energy, that just like feeds me to want to keep going. I just get in the zone and it's just like keep like it's just the more it happens, the more I just want to give myself out there to just do that.
And the feeling of sheer connectedness when like, you know, Gorgon City was playing and everyone was just losing their mind and it was just like it just doesn't make sense, you know. It's like it's overwhelming.
Oh
know?
yeah.
I think I definitely shed a couple tears. It was just like it was just very Burning Man, you know. Just like you just can't contain yourself, you know. And it's like
emotions, man.
Oh God, it's such a the whole thing is just all encapsulating. Any emotion, any feeling you think you can have out there, you're probably gonna have times 10.
Oh yeah,
you know, and it's great.
Yep,
it's fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
that's what Detroit did for me too. It was just like the whole weekend from start to finish was just beyond like I thought I knew techno before, and I did, but like not like that culture on that level. It was just so. It was everything I could have wanted and then some.
Right.
Like, it was beyond what I even knew I wanted, and it was just like that was it.
What do you let me ask you about techno, because I feel like techno is making a really big splash these days. Where it was, you know, before it was you know kind of 2008, 2011, it was kind of like progressive house. House has always been a thing. It's not, you know. And there was like the Dirty Bird, still big. It's like they had their kind of thing. They kind of created the sound. But I feel like techno right now is really making a big wave in a very big way. You know what I mean? With this kind of like dark vibe, you know, but also still kind of playful. It's not dark like sinister. It's just kind of like this like. I don't know. It's fascinating to me because it's not necessarily it's not something I could have ever seen being so big. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it plays into a lot of like what's going on in this world too right now, and then like not everything is like cherries and rainbows right now, and there's a lot of conflict in this world that we live in. So like having that dark outlet, like it's a dark outlet for some people to like have brightness in their life, like get this moment out of you here so that you can live a free life, or it's just like changing things up a bit. Like when people maybe been hearing like something that was very similar for a while now, and like techno is giving them like I feel like especially live techno, I call it like the jazz of electronic music, and not the sense where it's like, because like jazz, what it did is it like broke all the rules of like harmony and like what's supposed to work and what's not supposed to work, and I guess you can kind of go back into the romantic era with that too, but like jazz is where it was really like no, screw all the rules. You do it because it sounds good.
Mhm.
It's like you don't play a wrong note as long as the right note you play is the word you wanted to play. Like there is no such thing. And like techno is kind of doing that in the electronic world. I feel where
Mm.
it's just giving these experimental sounds a place to thrive, and it's giving
Yeah.
them like that, and it's something like that. It's exciting to people that may not have known about this type of techno before. Like yeah, techno was created in Detroit, and definitely has a lot of its root there. But I really feel like it grew up in Europe and
Mm.
Berlin area and everything in the 90s and into the early aughts and everything as well. Um, and then people now in America after like dance music. Cause I remember like back in the day, like if you used to dance, I told you to like turn down the volume.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
right, yeah.
it was taboo to listen to it in
It's like a white
America.
guy driving through the hood listening to rap music.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah, exactly. I just turn it down.
yeah.
You're too afraid being that.
But that was in a movie somewhere.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't remember what that was.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
hilarious.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Office Space? It was Office Space.
It was
Oh,
Office Space. Yeah, he's on the
yeah,
freeway.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, but yeah, man, it's giving people that like it used to like not be okay to listen to dance music, and now they got into it about like 10 years ago now, or like 6 years ago even, and now this is like that next evolution for them to be like, okay, it doesn't. I don't want to say like all this other music like sounds the same, but like you don't have to follow like the strict like breakdown build type of formula to have something still be impactful. And
Right.
and like having like that like raw like low energy, like you're getting into like 130 140 BPM stuff too. Like people are just able to just let loose, and some people
Yeah.
right now just like it just needs the world, like a lot of the world just really needs that outlet to let loose, like what's going on like all over the world, like was like the country of Georgia and how they're having to fight to be able to even rave anymore, or a lot of these places just like this is a huge part of like who they are as individuals and what their outlet is, and to like have that now start coming to America because I feel like people want that outlet, and so
Yeah.
like this is I'm excited to see where it goes from here and like how it
Yeah.
gets more adopted into American culture.
I'm looking forward to it because I feel like it's such a refreshing detour for me, as far as being a music producer. Just like we were talking about, as far as like the just like you said, like you don't have to follow this kind of like this rigid structure. You know what I mean? And like just a simple fact of you can start a techno track with just like this dark reverby kick drum for a minute. You know what I mean? And it's like people are like, oh yeah, all right, let's go. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's fine. You know what I mean? Like just stuff like that. And these big squelchy like synth blasts and stuff. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to kind of like pushing the envelope in my own way, I guess, because I do like I kind of I like to get weird with things a little bit and like push the envelope a little bit. So I'm kind of excited just like to have some new palette of colors and canvas. A little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've done house music for so long, and I should say like my future bassy stuff. I allow myself kind of like no rules. Like whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah.
I do have kind of these ideas. I want it to be a little bit more musical. I want it to be more, almost kind of like a movie soundtrack, and so that's kind of unlimited in that way. But I think it's going to be nice to kind of explore that techno world.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes down to like instead of like trying to like have a formula, and just like there's something called like a theme, where like what's the theme of your track, and a theme doesn't pigeonhole you into what you have to do. It's just like a general vibe that you want,
Right.
and then you just go from there and just like go off base what your theme would be
Yeah,
like. So.
and sometimes you come up with it before, and sometimes like I've done that with tracks too, where I've just made like a folder of sounds, just throw sounds in there, and be like, this is what I'm working with, and that's a good way to do it too. And then sometimes I'll kind of just as I'm going, I'm like, I have various sources. Like I use Freesound a lot, freesound.org, incredible place for sounds. And so I'll use that a lot, and I'll just browse until something hits me, throw it into my DAW and see what comes of it. And that's a kind of nice way to do it too. Kind of like it's more like explorative. It's like it's all just kind of just forcing yourself to not. It's like these preemptive measures to not getting stuck. I'm kind of always working on, always kind of like, trying to keep myself out of Loopville.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
exactly. Man. Keep the
Yeah.
inspiration going with it. And like Foley sounds are like the best things for that, man. Like
Yeah.
that organic texture that we were talking about earlier. It's just like you mix that with electronic and it's just magic. I don't know how to describe it other than it's just magic.
Right.
Yeah. Just
I have a song that made it on one of my Friends with Benefits albums, and it was a sound when I was living in Sacramento, and I had these blinds. There was like floor to ceiling blinds, and they made this like creaking sound. And you would raise it, you'd raise the blinds, and then it would kind of like settle in, but it would make this like. This like, but with like a little bit more of a tone to it, and I was like, I had heard it enough times, and I was like, oh, I need to sample that. And then one day I was like, no, fuck this, and I just grabbed my audio recorder and just held it up there.
Yep, and just sampled
and turned that into like this kind of like rhythmic intro for the track, and it's just, and then of course too, as a music producer, you think back and you remember that every time you hear it.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of even more than just some synth preset that you stumbled across or made or whatever. It's like it adds this layer of like so when I was a kid, I really was into. I started with like contemporary art, and one of my favorite things was collages, and so that's kind of. And I would do these collages with like paint and glue, and then spray paint or airbrush, and just add all these layers. And that's what I really enjoy my music to be like these days. It's kind of like an audio collage.
Yeah.
And like that's the most fun for me.
Yeah, taking a little bit from here,
a little bit
from
from
there.
right,
Yeah.
and just see like how weird you can make it. Like
Yep.
as weird as it can be, while it still somewhat resembles music. You know what I mean? Like,
and if you do want to make it really weird, no one else has to hear.
no,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Then you're actress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we're an hour and 40. I think we should wrap this up.
All right, definitely, man.
Yeah. But thank you for coming here.
Definitely, thank you for having me on.
I think I'm gonna lean on you for some techno advice.
Definitely,
man. If you don't mind.
Lean on.
Right. And maybe next year if you can make to the Burn, we should link up and hang out there as well.
Oh, of course, my man.
So
and I'll be seeing you here too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
You know where I am. I'll see you down here. Yep. Up in my hole. Get back to your hole.
Awesome, Scott. Well, I appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Cool. So, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So you can go find me online, Instagram /Sean Raya Music or Facebook Sean Raya Music. My website seanraya.com. I'll be playing Arizona coming up here, and then I'll be doing San Diego for a little after hours for Cross, which will be awesome. And then I'm off to Amsterdam, Berlin in October, and so that'd be cool.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, good time for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this has been episode 33 of The Voice of Electronic Music, Playa Voice Electronic Music. And again, I'm Scott Brio, and I got to thank Rhea, Leah, Gina, JoJo, and Dean and Mikey Payton, everyone here for letting us host at Halcyon. We're on 11th Street here downtown San Francisco. If you want to check out any of our other episodes, we're basically everywhere, every major streaming platform, YouTube, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Spotify, all that. So give us a Google, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you.
Peace out.